Welcome, Mark and Stefan. Good to have you here to talk about 1Password.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So now, Mark, what is your position with Agile Bits?
I am the QA team within Agile Bits,
Okay.
and I test across all of our platforms, which gives me a nice mix, a nice variety of looking at a little bit of everything.
Sure. That's great. And then, Stefan, you developed the Windows version of 1Password, is that correct?
Correct. I started working for them, I believe it was in 2009 or 2010. And there wasn't a Windows version at the time. So I basically created it from scratch. And I maintained it for a few years. That's what my position was.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that 1Password had been around for Mac previously, and then it was more recently come out to Windows. So that was your doing, apparently.
Well, I think the Windows version, exists for almost 5 or 6 years now. But since the product originated on Mac, that's where it's most famous. But cross-platform compatibility has been very important for the last few years.
Yeah. I think the landscape has really changed, and it's everybody's kind of moving into this cross-platform where they're realizing the need to support multiple platforms.
Exactly, and that's why there is a version for your iPhone and your iPad and for your Android phone.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. So I've used a couple different password managers throughout the years. I've not used 1Password prior to today, although the one I have, I've not been completely satisfied with, and so I was actually evaluating them a few months ago, trying to decide when to move to, and 1Password was on top of my list, so I'm actually planning to give it a good run out here and hopefully migrate over to it. I'm pretty excited about it.
Excellent. What was the other manager?
The one I've previously been using is LastPass.
Okay.
And the thing I didn't like about that one was the way it integrates in the browser. It's just a little... I understand how it works, and so from that point of view, but at the same time, it's a little bit... I don't like the lack of control I have in that area, and that's one thing I liked about 1Password, is that I can manage that password file myself and move it around how I see fit, and that seemed like a major advantage in my book.
Yeah, and a lot of customers, they actually move it to your Dropbox, and that then makes that thing available on all the other platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So now, what are some of the things that set 1Password apart from other password managers?
I guess there's a couple of things, Jim, that we focus on, and generally the way we try not to have a, for want of a better word, adversarial approach to other password managers. We really focus on what we do well, and
absolutely
try and focus on the positives. Security is a huge part, and that was something that from when 1Password was first built, coming up to 10 years ago, that's been the first thing we focus on is the security side, and as you're looking through the team side, we've maintained that same focus. In some ways, there's some parts of 1Password teams and families that is, I don't want to say over secure, but we've gone a little bit over the top with ensuring security is the number one thing. Before we allowed it out even for beta testing, security has got to be number one. So that's probably the first thing. And I think the second thing is probably the user experience, the polish, the look and feel, the way the customer interacts with our apps. And those are probably the main two things: the usability and the security, which can sometimes, as I'm sure you know, can be a juggling act to try and find a happy medium between security and usability.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes I say that it seems like they're almost opposed to each other, right? Because I've built systems, I try and make it really secure, and then the users are like, oh, yeah, I don't like the fact I have to enter my password every time. Can you just save my password? I'm like, that kind of defeats the purpose of the login, you know? So that certainly is a balancing act, trying to find that sweet spot between the two.
No, absolutely, and I know Stefan will reinforce this, but it's awesome that we have developers that are so focused on when they're building our apps or have built our apps that are so focused on that security side, and in some ways security comes before usability, if that makes sense. Like, it's got to be secure.
Right.
The usability part is, I don't know, we'll cut a feature if we can't make it secure.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
If that makes sense. Stefan, do you have anything you wanted to add to that? I hope I've captured that well.
Oh, that's totally correct. And I remember that we actually trimmed down certain features after we discovered that they might not be as secure as we wanted them to be.
Yeah, I think with 1Password that really is very key, is that it is secure. And that's one thing I liked, actually, just looking here on your site. The security page has all the interesting bits, because I know enough about security to know, like I can recognize terms here as far as AES and stuff like that. So it's good to see, that you're talking about how it's encrypted and what the functions of the different parts are and stuff like that. So very nice to see that information available, and to know that, it's important to you as well.
Absolutely, and it's a little bit off track, but happy to sort of touch on it for a moment, Jim. We published a white paper as well for our 1Password teams and families, which is what we're looking at here on the web. There's a white paper that does go into that detail. So if you are interested if people are interested, if our users are interested in things like that, if new customers are interested, there is an entire white paper that goes into the background and what's the effort we've gone to ensure it is secure.
Is that available on the website, or is it something I have to request separately?
It is. It should be at the very bottom of the security page.
Okay.
You have to scroll all the way to the bottom.
Read
the white paper. We I don't know. Again, it's striking that balance between making everything available and not overwhelming people. Because, again, preaching to the choir here, but we have a wide range of skill levels in our user base. People like yourself who love this content, but we want to shield some people shield people from it as well, because that's just overwhelming. They just want to save a password and fill in. They just want to sign into Facebook securely. They want the simple side.
So yeah, this is great right here. It uses the MS Crypto API on Windows. This is exciting to me to read that, to know how this works.
And not only do we document all the encryption, but we also document the file format itself. So what do we store? How do we store it? So while it's not really open source software, we're very open about all those formats.
Oh, that's fantastic. Actually, I was looking at on your site, you have a migration from LastPass to 1Password, and you said that a user, one of your enthusiastic users, has built a conversion utility that will convert the file formats over, which I think that's always a great sign when you have your users are building things for other users to use. It's a sign that they're really passionate and believe in what you're doing. So that's great to see.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Personally, I'm a big fan of not importing an existing database because I just like it so much that when I enter a password that does not exist in my database, that 1Password will pop up and ask me, do you want to save this password?
Yeah.
And I like that feature so much that after a week or two, just using the software, it will have created a new database with all your passwords.
Yep, I've just got installed 1Password, and I was going to go through the process of using this here. So I'm going to log in here. Oops, it helps I type a password correctly.
The one challenge maybe, depending on whether you have LastPass and 1Password extensions activated in Chrome, they may fight with each other. So
yeah, this is in my virtual machine. It just has 1Password installed right now.
No problem at all. I just wanted to mention. There we go. Perfect.
So it popped up here and it said, "Hey, you're logging in. I want to save this." And I like the fact that I can wait and see that it actually logged in correctly, because there's been a number of times I've typed in my password and say, "Yeah, save that," and then it says, "Oh, that's wrong." I'm like, "Oh man, now I got to fix it in 2 places." So that's great. So let's go ahead and save this here, and then I can see it showed up over here, and it says my password strength is maybe, I guess, on the okay side. Could be better. Good to know.
And of course, Jim, we're going to err on the side of caution as well. So we would rather, say that it's less secure than more secure. That makes sense. And we also can generate passwords. And
I saw that.
I don't want to. I'm not sure if there's a flow, or whether I don't want to step on Stefan's toes as well as far as going through things, but. I guess this is the most common use, is capturing existing usernames and passwords, but of course we can use that generator as well, and that was probably one of the biggest changes for me when I went from being a long-time 1Password user to joining the team. Was I realized that I was just capturing weak passwords, and I wasn't using the password generator, and now I'm generating passwords like a crazy man. I don't know my passwords, if that makes sense, because they're all just random text, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat now, as I went from trying to memorize all these passwords and then capturing them, and it's like, I don't want to know. My wife's like, "What's the password for this page?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'll look it up for you, but I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So now,
would you like me to talk you through the process of generating a new strong and secure password?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say let's do that. But now, real quick though, this is the Windows client, and this is the part that's written in Delphi here. Correct?
Well, almost everything is written in Delphi, including the pop-up menu that you see in Chrome.
Oh, it is. Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because I was always. This is one of those things that's like, I'd like to write some sort of Chrome plugin, and I wasn't sure what was involved in that. So this is actually written in Delphi here too. That's fantastic.
Well, there's a little JavaScript-based stub, and that is necessary to actually have that 1Password button show up in Chrome. But that thing is very thin, and then there is a service running that we like to refer to as the 1Password helper, and that thing actually contains that pop-up menu that you see. And what happens is the tiny JavaScript extension then talks to the helper through WebSockets.
Okay, that's interesting. Cool.
So you're looking at while it may seem that you're looking at one thing, you're actually looking at several components that integrate very, very closely with each other.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and generate a secure password here. How do I do that?
Well, first you need to navigate to some sort of a sign-up page, but you can maybe log out of this thing, and then we can use, the login page.
All right, we'll do that. All right.
So suppose this is not a login page, but a sign-in page. Let's just assume that.
Okay.
You click on the 1Password icon on the button.
Yep.
And then you click on Password Generator. Okay, so now it will, generate the password for you. And
you have Diceware passphrases? That is so cool.
Yeah, you can do Diceware. And then basically you press OK here, and then it should fill that password.
Oh, look at that.
Now, at this particular point, it will not submit this page. It will leave that up to yourself. But it will generate a password, it will fill it, and it will also remember this in 1Password, because there might be a scenario where you're going to the next step and you're signing up, and then the 1Password pop-up appears, the one that we saw before, but maybe you cancel that thing.
Sure.
So and that is why we also always store all your generated passwords. So if you go back to the Windows client and you click on the View menu, and then click on Generated Passwords.
Oh, okay.
In the sidebar, a new category appears, and it will contain all your generated passwords. So this is the thing that you just generated.
Okay, so there's my original one, and here's the one I just generated.
Correct, and you can safely delete this one.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow, very nice. Okay, that was that one.
You can consider this category as sort of a backup.
Yeah, exactly. I see that, and that's actually a scenario I've run into. So I like the fact that you have the generate dice for passphrases, because that's actually something I've wanted. Because sometimes it's like, I need to remember this password, which is a passphrase is so much easier to do, but not use something easy to guess. So that's really great. Separate spaces. I'm pretty excited. Actually, there's a number of people internally that are using 1Password here at Embarcadero that were quite excited when they heard that you were in our contest, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I've been using 1Password for years. I didn't know it was written in Delphi. That's really exciting." So you do have a lot of good fans here already. So
that's excellent.
Okay, I'm pretty tickled with this. This is exciting. All right, what else do I need to know about 1Password here? This is a cool program.
I guess one thing that I really like, and it's more on the technical side, and we sort of covered it briefly already, but because parts of the app are sort of broken into the extension, so the browser extension, which we've just used, and then there's the main app. Because we're dealing with so many different websites and different browsers and those types of things, things are split up separately, if that makes sense. So as websites change, we're not overhauling, and please, Stefan, jump in if I explain this poorly or incorrectly, but we're updating just the extension part as opposed to updating the entire app as websites change, as companies oddly change websites and move fields around and rename fields and all those sort of things, which of course are the bane of the existence of any password managers, is trying to capture information correctly and fill and all those sorts of things. So it's nice to have those separate, not features, separate I guess applications is not really the right word, but do you know what I mean? Like it's split up, so you're not having to overhaul everything every time. That's one thing that I really like. I guess while we're a password manager, and this is certainly something that is not special to us, is we're capturing or we're saving a lot of other data as well, Jim. So if you look in the sidebar on the left of the main app there's a lot of other information we can capture. Software license information. I'm not actually reading it off the screen, so if I mention the wrong things, I'm sorry. But passport information, driver's license information, insurance information, banking information, credit cards, all those sorts of things. And a lot of that can be used to fill in websites. So a good example is eBay or Amazon. If we're updating a credit card, we can fill that information from 1Password via the extension in the browser into the payment fields.
Really? Oh, excellent. So I've been using a mix before with the Chrome's credit card filling and LastPass's password management. So I like that this can bring them together for me. That's cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that 1Password does not only fill logins, it also fills credit cards, and it can actually fill your identity.
Okay, that's cool.
And that's a great example, Stefan. So you're signing up for a new shopping website, and you need to put in your name and shipping address and all those sort of things. That's where identities comes into play. So you can have a work identity, a home identity, and you can fill whichever one is appropriate at the time, and that's something that I use. You mentioned using a combination of Chrome and LastPass a moment ago. I guess the benefit of using a password manager to do all of these things, and let's use the current example, 1Password. Because we're synchronizing across all platforms, we have the ability to have those identities everywhere and that credit card information everywhere on each device. So we're not relying on one browser, for example, that may or may not sync across different platforms. So allowing your password manager to do that identity filling and credit card filling and those sort of things, as opposed to the browser, opens you up to far more opportunities, Jim.
Yeah, excellent. Very cool. Now, let's talk a little more about the technical side here, Stefan, with this. Are there any particular components in here that you used that were just key to the development of this application?
Well, almost everything you look at is VCL.
Okay.
There are not a lot of visual third-party components.
Yeah. Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I'm not really a big fan of third-party components. I always try and use what comes out of the box.
Okay.
So in this particular case, you do see a few custom painted things. That sidebar on the left, that is obviously a custom painted list box and a custom painted tree view.
Okay.
In the lower left corner. And that third quadrant where you see all your items, that's a list view that actually does custom painting as well. Because if you go to the logins category, that column that reads password,
right,
that's a custom painted column. But almost everything visually that you see is VCL.
Okay. Now, this drop attachment here, this lets me drop like a file attachment that can be attached to this. Is that the idea?
Correct. You can drop anything from Windows Explorer onto that.
Can I drop that? No.
Not that. A file. A file.
A file, okay. I didn't have a file
Explorer.
Open. Yeah, from Explorer. Sure, that makes sense.
Jim, I wonder if I could jump in just for a sec. If you go to the file menu for a moment, I wonder if we dump in some, dump is probably the wrong use of the word, but let's create a demo vault, and it'll give you some data to play around with. Okay. Just the default settings are fine there. And we just need to give your demo vault a password.
Now, I like this feature here, this secure desktop. So this, most people don't realize what this does, but this actually brings up a totally separate Windows desktop. So if I had some sort of keyboard sniffing software installed, it would not have access to that. Is that correct?
That is correct, because those keyboard messages, they are not allowed to travel across desktops.
Yep.
So when we create this new secure desktop, that's keyloggers do not have access to that.
Yep. Yeah. That's okay. So that's a terrible password, but that's a cool feature. And like I said, I don't think most people realize how important that is on a computer. So that's really cool. When I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" Okay, so we're in our demo vault here. All right. So they have much better passwords than I do.
They're probably all generated.
Yeah.
This is something that we have on most of our platforms exactly for this purpose.
Sure. Okay, this is cool. So we have different identities here. Now, do these logins, I was curious, are they tied to an identity?
Not in the same way that I think LastPass operates, like a profile or a specific identity. We do keep them separate. I guess it's the model that we've essentially always had, and a lot of the time, one person may have multiple logins for one website, a bunch of websites. So it's stayed separate.
Yeah. Okay.
And not tied to a user or a profile. I guess what we're looking at is one user's vault. So it's all of theirs, as opposed to having one vault with multiple users accessing that. If that sort of makes sense. I'm familiar with LastPass's profile feature, where you can have, multiple identities. We don't have a feature like that on our apps.
All right. So I'm totally geeking out here. You have a one-time password generator here. So I would assume this is compatible with like Google Auth. What is it? Google Auth? Yeah, that's what it's called. Google Authenticator. Is that right?
Correct. That's exactly what it does. So.
Oh, that's so cool.
Previously, maybe you stored your time-based one-time passwords in Google Authy, and now you can store them in 1Password.
I do. It's like I didn't realize how many. I have Google Authy, I have LastPass, and I had Chrome, and I'm storing all this stuff. And Evernote. I'm storing stuff in Evernote that I should probably be storing here too. And it's like all over the place. And now I can put them all in here, and it's all going to be secure. I am really excited. Yes, I'm totally geeking out here. This is really cool.
And this was clearly something that we were pretty excited to get in there as well. It's I don't want to say open source is open standard. I beg your pardon. Time-based one-time passwords are an open standard, so wasn't that hard to. Sorry, I'm speaking from a non-technical point of view here. It may have been hard to code for Stefan to get it in there, but I mean, from a usability, it makes sense to have it all there, and we're pretty excited when we were able to deploy it.
Yeah, I've actually looked at the standard, and it's one of those things. It looks simple, and I actually thought about implementing it, but it was a little more complicated than I originally thought. What was your thoughts on that, Stefan? Was that pretty easy, or still more complicated to implement that one-time password?
I think that if you have access to the correct hash functions, it's not really all that complicated.
Okay.
It's a well-documented standard. And you can find lots of example code on the internet.
Yeah. All right. Now, did you, as far as the hash functions go, did you use all of them from the Microsoft Crypto library built into the OS, or were you using another library for that?
We're actually using a different combination of libraries.
Okay.
So the MS Crypto library that you refer to, we use that to generate random keys. So it's a pseudo random number generator.
Right.
And so that's what we use that thing for. And then we use a number of different libraries for, I think for SSL and TLS, we use StreamSec, which I highly recommend. And then for encryption, I think we use a combination of GeoCatCrypt and OpenSSL, and a lot of it is driven by OpenSSL.
Okay, this has gone a lot longer, but I'm just totally excited about all these cool features here. Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap up here from either of you?
Well, there are a few more tips that I'd like to give you.
Oh, yes, please.
If you're in the browser, there's a super handy shortcut. It's Command \, and that thing will then fill your login for you automatically. So we have a lot of users that really never go into the desktop app and never really click that button. They just press Control \, all the time.
Okay, let's do that here. So Control \, Control / or backspace. I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. That was Control \.
Control \.
Control \.
We're in the demo vault. That's why.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry, I took us off track by doing that. So, yep, perfect. Sorry about that, Stefan. I just realized when WebMD came up. I'll jump out again.
So I'm using a Mac keyboard here, so it's Control
\.
Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Oh, I like that. So LastPass has a little button that I click on all the time with that, but it gets weird sometimes. So that's really cool. I like that. Nice, excellent.
And then there's a feature that allows you to log into non-web browser login. So you can actually use 1Password to log into Skype, for example.
Really? Oh my goodness. How do I do that?
Now that is Windows exclusive. That is not something we have on the Mac, Jim. So I love that Stefan's showing you this.
So I don't know if I have Skype on here. I don't think I do.
Have any other apps? iTunes or?
Here's
Oh,
Skype.
perfect.
Oh, apparently I'm already logged in. Look at that. All right, so we log out. Another great, fantastic Delphi application here, Skype for Windows.
Nice.
There are various workflows to accomplish this, but if you go back to the desktop app and then click on any login, it doesn't matter which one.
On any login, okay.
Click on Delphi.org.
Okay.
And then if you hover over those buttons that are on the right side of your password, one of them says copy to clipboard, and the other one says auto type.
Yes.
So if you click auto type, if you click on that thing, it will ask you, where do you want to, enter this password into, and then it will enter it into Skype for you.
Oh, that's really cool. Wow. That's slick. Okay.
And then there are other tricks to actually associate a login item with Skype so that you can do the control / trick, but that's a little bit more advanced.
Okay, so that would involve making one of these that's associated with Skype.
Yeah, that means that you need to associate a login item with Skype. But it's possible, and it's a documented procedure.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I was actually looking through some of the documentation on their website. There's a lot of information out there, lots of cool features to learn how to use. So that's cool.
Now, if you have any questions, you can always contact me.
I will. I am very excited.
The only other thing I was going to add, Jim, is the syncing side. Of course, all this information, all your personal data can be synced across. You mentioned you're on a Mac, can be synced to the Mac through something like Dropbox. You would set up that Dropbox syncing, and then your information would be available there. And then any other devices like Android devices or iOS, again, would sync through Dropbox as well.
So what is this Wi-Fi sync you have here? How does that work?
Well, some people, they don't really want their passwords to travel outside of their LAN. Even though we encrypt everything and we document everything, they don't trust the cloud. And so they don't want their passwords in their clouds, but they do want to, sync it to Mac, for example, and that's where Wi-Fi sync comes in. Wi-Fi sync is built on top of Bonjour, so you need to install that, and it comes with every Mac, of course, and on Windows it's a separate installer. But once you have that, then 1Password for Windows will discover 1Password for Mac more or less automatically, and it will allow you to sync your passwords without your passwords leaving your network.
Very cool. So it just does UDP across it. Yep, and it's able to find them. That's really cool. That's great.
And you can use that also to sync to Android or to your iPhone. Okay. It's an alternative to Dropbox for those who are more security conscious.
Excellent. All right.
Stuck in the excitement of software installation.
Okay. Anything else we want to? This thing's going to keep prompting me here. All right. Anything else we want to?
You should be able to bring up that menu.
All right.
Describe it.
Wi-Fi sync. Very cool.
Okay, so now what you need to do, you need to open 1Password on your iPhone or on your Android phone. You need to enter that secret. And from that part, you can sync with your phone without your passwords leaving your network.
Oh, that's cool. I don't have it installed anywhere else yet, but I will do that shortly here. That's really nice.
Not to say that Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive isn't secure, because it is. We encrypt everything. But it's nice to have this as an alternative.
Oh, absolutely! I really appreciate that, because it is secure, but it's one of those things that you want to. Sometimes you have considerations about. There's been times when I've worked with somebody else's credentials or data, and they have very strict rules about where the data can be stored, and it's like, well, and I try and argue the point. Well, Dropbox is secure, and it's like, no, it doesn't fit the policy, and so this lets me be within those policies because I'm only storing the data on my devices or devices that are issued to me by them or something like that. And then I can have that complete control that is really important in so many situations. So this is a really important feature, I believe.
And then we look at the total flip side, I guess, and in your browser there you have 1Password families and teams, whereas we take over all of that. So we do all the syncing and those sorts of things as families.
Uh-huh.
So we look after the syncing side because we've taken that functionality on, I guess, Jim. It gives us a lot more finite control as to access and permissions and those sorts of things. So it totally changes what we're able to offer to users of 1Password for families and those sort of things. It uses the same, essentially the same apps across each of the platforms, but it's the syncing part that changes, and therefore the way your data is managed and controlled and those sort of things. Now, I only mention it in passing. It's not a big part of this conversation, but just to, I guess, to reiterate that side, there's the tech side. You know, we really we love that we have such tech savvy users and fans, and like many companies, we've got to accommodate the mums and dads as well.
Sure. Yeah, excellent. I like this. That's cool too. I like the flexibility there. All right. So, Stefan, what are you up to now as far as development goes? Are you still using Delphi?
I am. I've been using it for almost 20 years, man.
When I saw your email address was Dutch Delphi, dude, I'm pretty sure I've seen, I can't remember where, but I swear I've seen you like on Twitter or Google Plus or something like that with that name.
I've previously reviewed one of Marco Cantu's books, and I think that's maybe where you saw my name.
Okay, that could be.
I've worked on a few high-profile products, and I've always used Delphi. I've worked on TopStyle, made with Delphi, and I've worked on Adobe Captivates, made with Delphi, and in the early 90s I worked at Macromedia, and we actually did Delphi over there.
Wow, I'd forgotten about TopStyle. That was a great tool I've used previously. Excellent. It's always interesting to discover all the places and all the cool and interesting ways Delphi is being used all over the place to do amazing things. So, very cool.
You know, I'm hearing people tell me Delphi is dead all the time, and then every so often I enter an office building somewhere and I find a department with 20 Delphi developers sitting there.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I was in Brazil just recently, and they have a I can't remember what it's called, but it's similar like FedEx. It's a shipping company, huge. They have offices all over FedEx, all over Brazil, and other countries as well. And they use Delphi to manage everything, all their automated floors for conveyor belts and package tracking, and the business side. All is written in Delphi, and just huge department of Delphi developers. And it's like, yeah, it's everywhere. People are using it like crazy. So, yeah, I agree. It's certainly a very popular choice, and it's always neat to see that happening. So,
I always find myself to be most productive in Delphi. I mean, I can read most languages, but every time I need to whack something together really quick or test something, or I always go back to Delphi.
Oh yeah, yep. And I started out programming. Well, I was basic, and then with Pascal and Delphi, and I've been a Delphi developer for years. And then I've made the rounds and used a number of other languages, but I was still in the same boat. No matter how much I was using, whether it be C# or Java, 90% of the time, if I needed to make a quick utility to solve something, it was in Delphi. And it's like, oh, this is so much easier to do in Delphi. And I consider myself to be fairly well-rounded now, and I still prefer Delphi because it's productive, because it's powerful, and because it makes great apps when I'm done. So,
absolutely. And for a long time, 1Password for Windows has been a one-guy team, and it's used all over the place.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time. This has been so much fun for me, hopefully for everybody else as well. This is really cool and exciting features and stuff here, and I am really looking forward to migrating to 1Password here. This has got everything. Like I said, I was using over multiple applications, and it's all in one place now.
I want to thank you both.
Absolutely, and thanks for the interest, and thanks for the time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we will hopefully talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Guys.
Good evening, Stefan. See you,
Bye-bye.
Jim.
Bye.